Okay, welcome to today's PIF Talk, which means Pay It Forward. It is hosted by the Life Coach University, which is a phenomenal organization. It's actually recognized in the top 15 areas where you can get life coaching. And in the Life Coach University, you can get it for free and you can pay it forward. So that's what we ask when you come here and you listen to Pay It Forward talks, that you in return will pay it forward to someone else. That can be sharing this specific webinar. It can be sharing something else or paying it forward out of the goodness of your heart. Just let's work together and make the world a better place and help coach millions more. All right. So my name is Ashleigh Johnston. I'm a life coach and I'm a mom that has kids with special needs. And today I'm going to be talking about acceptance, the topic of acceptance, and actually how phenomenal and I think underrated it actually is. So here's how it kind of came about, is that I had my kiddos with special needs. They were born, they were struggling, and I was struggling, and I was in a lot of denial. I was really struggling to accept that this was the case. And that caused a lot of really unnecessary suffering. And something I didn't realize at the time that I realize now is that acceptance can be very, very empowering. And that's one of the reasons why you really want to engage with it in the first place, is because resistance, which I engaged a lot in, is very exhausting. And it's a kind of emotional work that you do that has absolutely no reward on the other end. You resist, you resist, you resist, and you suffer. And there's nothing to show for it, right? There is a useful way to suffer emotionally, and there is an unuseful way. And resisting what is very unuseful. So here's what I want to do. So I have a lot of thoughts on this. I hope you don't mind. I'm going to refer down to my notes a couple of different times, just so that I can offer you the best that I have. Okay. Sometimes I get a little nervous just talking live. So hopefully you don't mind that. Okay. So if I had decided to give up my resistance to this life circumstance, my children's health issues, and be accepting of it, meaning that I'm willing to engage with my life as it actually is that's what the value that acceptance offers on the other side, right? Is that you engage with reality in a way that is powerful, where you can actually affect it. Okay, so let's just take a minute to define them so that you and I are on the same page about what this actually is. So acceptance is really acknowledging the reality of your situation so that you can choose how to respond to it in a way that promotes your well-being and your personal development. There's a lot of different definitions out there, but that's really the one that I want to go with. It can just be, I'm going to bring it in. I'm going to acknowledge that this is how it is. Now, resistance, on the other hand, is the act or the power of trying to resist, to oppose, to push against something, to withstand it. And a really great way to understand this is the weather. So, yes, here we go. Okay, so let's talk about accepting versus not accepting something. So it's a rainy day. What are you going to do about that? If you are not accepting that it's a rainy day or resisting it, this is what it can look like. It can look like, I don't like the rain. Okay, and when we're doing this, I want you to think about a life circumstance that you currently have that perhaps you are resisting. You don't want to accept it. And most of the time when we talk about acceptance, it's about a life circumstance that we really don't want to engage with. Okay, that can be the health issues of a child, a relationship issue, a career issue, financial stress. Just pull one of those up in your mind, because that's what makes this powerful. So think about it and then try to substitute the word rain for your circumstance. Okay. So the circumstance is happening, like the rain is happening. What can we do? If you're not accepting that it's raining, it might sound like this in your head. I don't like the rain. I wish it wasn't raining. Life would be better for me if it would just stop raining. My day is ruined, or my life is ruined. Every day is just going to be like this. Or it's always this way. Why does it have to rain when I want it to be a sunny day? Right? And so you can see that down there. So what I found is I was doing this in my head. I was thinking about my kids and I was thinking like, it shouldn't be this way. I don't want it to be that way. Why does this have to happen to me when I wanted to pursue all of these other things and now I can't because my kids have extra needs? Like, this is all what it sounded like in my head. All the resistance popping up. Okay. Now, if you're going to accept it, what acceptance sounds like is pretty simple. Yep, it's raining. Okay. And it doesn't mean you like it. It doesn't mean you like it. It doesn't mean you want it to happen. It doesn't mean that you are in love with it. It doesn't mean any of those things. It just means you understand it's happening. Okay. And here's the analogy that I had in my head is like, if you're there and it's raining, you can yell at the sky. Why is this happening? This is awful. All while you're getting drenched. And then, or you can accept it. While it's raining, you're going to go and you're going to find a shelter, or maybe there's not one and you have to build one while it's raining, while people are depending on you, right? It's not pleasant, but that's not the point of acceptance. Acceptance isn't so that you can just feel all better, even though I will tell you that is an effect of it. Acceptance is about coming in contact with reality in an empowering way. Okay, so as I was thinking about this, I went, okay, so what happens if you're just having a hard time giving up on this, not giving up on it, but accepting that the state of your relationship or the state of your child's health or the state of your finances, and you're just resisting it, you're not looking at it, you're not trying to engage with it meaningfully. What are the outcomes if you were to actually stay over here? Because sometimes when you play the story to the end, it helps you realize that's not actually what you want to be doing. So here are some outcomes that I have experienced and that I have seen others experience when they resist their life circumstance. Now, if you're a parent with a child with special needs, maybe think about, like for me, it was my kids and them not speaking. I have 2 kids and they don't speak. One is 4, one is 7. And so they're currently nonverbal. And this has been very, very hard for me to accept. Like, what if this is how it's always going to be, kind of a thing. So when I have resisted against this kind of reality, here is what I have experienced. You don't adapt to finding constructive solutions. You don't take in suggestions. You don't look for alternative ways to communicate, for my circumstance specifically. It increases anxiety. It increases stress. And yes, I have felt like with like an urgency to try to fix it, because I thought if I can just help them speak, then I can feel better and I can feel more at ease. I can feel like a better mom. Another thing is emotional suppression, which can manifest in a mental or physical breakdown. When you have these big emotions and you don't process them and you resist them and you push them down, it will manifest. Feelings buried alive never die, and they will manifest in physical health issues. You can also experience isolation, a lot of isolation, when you are resisting the reality of your circumstance. You also miss out on developing the skills to help you overcome the difficult situation. So for me, to help me become a better communicator, for if you're struggling in a marriage relationship, to help you develop the skill set to have a good marriage. You miss out on all of that when you're just trying to resist that it's happening, right? And that really does strain your relationships even further. The last thing that I have thought of, doesn't mean it's the only one, is that you increase the likelihood that you will make decisions from an emotionally volatile state. So if you're constantly resisting that it's raining with this kind of a narrative in your head, then you stay very emotional and you start to make decisions that have negative consequences that you could have avoided if you were able to acknowledge, yes, it's raining. I don't like this. Where do we go from here? Okay. So what are some of the outcomes of being on this side, of being in acceptance? And here are some things that I've experienced and seen with my clients, which is they're more flexible. They're more adaptable. They learn to overcome obstacles. They use this kind of a life event that happened that they didn't want to happen. They use it to their advantage, meaning they develop, the people in their lives develop, right? Which is an amazing feeling. You learn to adopt a growth mindset. It keeps you humble, actually, makes you very persistent. It alleviates stress, actually, when you just are like, this is what's happening right now. It improves your mental health. It improves your emotional health. It helps you make decisions better. It improves your relationships. It increases your energy that you have, right? Because this narrative really sucks the energy out of you. And when you hop on over here, you let go of all of this. So you actually have more energy to make things happen in your life, to get things done. It's really amazing. It increases the gratitude that you have when you stay over here in acceptance. And it also increases mindfulness and awareness. So there really is no negative, very little negatives to hopping on over to acceptance and acknowledging the state of your marriage, the state of your child's health, the state of your finances. It will feel a little painful, but the payoff is way bigger than staying over here and not accepting what's going on. So when I was delving into this idea of acceptance, I was like, I can accept the past. I can accept that my children were born and don't have the ability to, like, I can accept that my children were not speaking in the past. I can accept that they're not speaking now, but I am struggling to accept that they may never speak in the future. And I really want to address acceptance in the framework of the past, the present, and the future, because in the past and the present, it's useful. But in the future, acceptance is not always useful. Let me flip this over. Okay. So like I said, think about this. If I already shared with my kids, but think about this if you had a goal, like a career goal or a relationship goal. And the state of that relationship or your career is not where you want it to be. And it hasn't been where you wanted it in the past. Okay. So to look back and to deny that it was there is not going to be useful to you whatsoever, because it already happened. We cannot change the past. So to deny that it happened or to not accept it does no good. But when we do accept it, it becomes useful, because then we can learn from what didn't work, right? It becomes a tool for our future. And then we can also integrate. That is how we can integrate it, is when it becomes a tool. We can integrate what we've learned from the past to help us in the present and in the future. What I've also learned about the present is acceptance is what I feel is really the best way to go about a hard life situation. To accept that it is. This is what I have to work with. This is the state of my marriage. My husband will not pick up his socks. My husband does not do that. I do not do this. This is where we're at. My child doesn't speak. This is where we're at. That's what that sounds like in the present, and why it's useful to say this is where we're at instead of this is so sad, it shouldn't be this way. My child should be able to speak. It's not useful to argue with reality. And I like Byron Katie says it this way. She says, you can argue with reality, but you will lose, but only 100% of the time. Okay. And that is true. It's raining. What are you going to do about that? Nothing. So when you acknowledge that that's the case and that the present is something you can influence, but it's still there, then you can integrate it. So instead of trying to argue and feel sad that my children cannot speak, what I can do is go, oh, I wonder how I can help them speak, because they're here and we would love them to be here, but they can't use words right now. Maybe I could get a device. Maybe we could learn sign language. Maybe we could do pictures, right? You start to integrate the reality of them not speaking, which actually helps improve the communication. Whereas if I resisted it, we would make no progress. Now, the future, let me see this one. I find it will most of the time is not useful to have an acceptance of a future that someone else predicts for your child. Because the reality, just like we cannot change the past, we cannot predict. No. We cannot know the future for sure. So will my children ever speak in the future? I don't know. Neither do their doctors, neither do their therapists. So for me to live my life as if they will never speak in the future, if I have that as something I accept, will greatly influence whether or not I do anything for my kids now. If I feel like they may never speak in the future, maybe I wouldn't be trying to do therapy. Maybe I wouldn't be trying to do communication devices or anything like that. And that's not really useful. So, but the question that begs is, why would I be working towards a goal that I don't know will actually ever happen? Why would I be trying to help my children speak if they may never speak? Why would I be trying to work towards this career goal if it may never actually happen? Why would I be trying to improve my marriage if maybe it will never get better? Maybe I should just bow out now and get a divorce or give up on my kids or not do my career goals. Okay. This was the question I really had to face, because the truth is I don't know if my children will ever speak. So why would I try to keep trying? And here's why. Because the end goal is not everything. I know it feels like that. It feels like that to me. Like when they speak, then I will have arrived. When my relationship is in good order, then I will have arrived. When I have the career I want, then I will have arrived. I remember talking about this with one of my coaches, and I was telling her, like, why would I try? It's so hard. It's so painful. Just like building that shelter out in the rain. Like, this is so painful. Why would I keep pursuing this if there's no guarantee that at the end I will have a shelter or I will have children that will speak? And she actually also has a child that has, her child's an adult now, that has special needs like mine does. And she said, you know what, Ashleigh, if someone came to me today and told me, this is it, this is the healthiest you'll be, the most money you'll make, the furthest you'll get in your career, this is the furthest your daughter will develop, this is kind of it. She said, Ashleigh, I would continue doing everything that I'm doing right now, even if this was the peak. And I was like, why would you do that? And what she told me is who I will become in the process of consistently trying to do better, consistently trying to reach a career goal or have a healthy body or what have you. Who I become in the process is worth it. And that really hit me strong, because what it did is it separated these two things. The thing I don't have control over is the ultimate outcome of what happens with my children. But the outcome I do have control over is who I become or who they become in the process of pursuing this goal. So you don't need to actually accept any kind of prescribed future that someone gives to you or to your children. You really don't. There's not any use in it that I have seen. Now, if you find some, you let me know, because that would be good to know. But what I have found is that it's not really there. And the best thing to do is to accept the past, accept the present, and aim for the future from a place of acceptance. And if you work for this goal, whether that's helping your children, your career, your marriage, and years later, when the deadline hits and you're not where you thought you would be, that is when you can incorporate acceptance. That's when you can accept where you're at, because then it will be the present. Okay. And that is powerful. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay. All right. This is one that I definitely wanted to hit on, especially for those of you that have children with special needs, mostly because I just have a place in my heart for that. But when you encounter a life circumstance that differs from what you were working towards or differs from what you expected, like who you thought your children would be, who you thought you would be, where you thought you would be in your life when you turned 35 or 40 or 45, and you're not there, you experience loss because you don't have what you thought you would. And so there's pain and there's grief. Now, grief is very, very useful, because clean grief is very useful. And what I mean by clean grief is that you're willing to drop into the place where you feel the sadness and you just let it be. The acceptance of the grief. This is grief. This is sadness. I'm sad because I lost this thing I thought I would have. I'm sad because I have to let go of this idea that I really liked. I'm sad because I thought my kids would speak by now and they're not. I'm sad because I thought I would have an amazing marriage by now and I don't. Or whatever it is. That's clean grief. The kind of grief that isn't clean is the resistance to it. It shouldn't be this way. He should be different. They should be different. My career should be different. It's not this way. This is unfair. That kind of a sadness is unclean sadness or unclean grief. And I don't encourage you to accept that, because it never goes away. It's a cyclical, chronic kind of a grief that you just latch onto, and you use that as your reason throughout life to not move on and to not move forward. And it can, in my opinion, it can poison you mentally, emotionally. So when you have a clean kind of a grief and you see the pain of what's happened in your life, you just look at it, just hold it and go, this happened. This is sad. I don't like this, but it happened. And I will tell you, when you do that and you hold it and you hold yourself and you accept that that's the case, it really cleans that up, and then you can let it go. You can let it go. And that is the relationship that acceptance and grief can have. Acceptance helps you process the grief you experience with the loss. Let me see if I've missed anything. Okay, so, and that's all of these contribute, right? It helps keep it clean. It helps you manage it better. I had a sister once. I had a conversation with her, and I remember she was grieving some pretty big losses. And I remember encouraging her, like, well, just kind of step into that grief. And she was terrified. She said, I can't do that. I can't do that, because what if I can never find my way out? To her, it felt like she would jump in a pit. She would feel the grief and she would never survive it. She wouldn't be able to get out of that pit again. And I didn't understand it at the time, but what I understand now is the kind of grief she had was the kind that said this should never have happened, versus the kind of grief that goes, this did happen. And then just let it be. And to maybe, and so it helps you manage that grief where you don't feel like it will overpower you. It just feels like you're meeting it. You're just meeting it. And so acceptance can help you manage that kind of fear that you might have with encountering grief. Okay, it also incorporates integration, the reality of what happened, whether it's a loved one that passed away, an unmet goal that never happened. I had a family member who got in a car crash and lost his leg, and he was very big into yoga And now he can't do that the same way that he always did. And it was hard for him to really integrate that that was the reality of what happened. He no longer had that leg. But when he went from the sadness and was able to just look and see the missing leg and just be like, this happened, my leg is gone, he was able to integrate that into his life. And now he's able to rebuild and function in a healthy way, incorporating that loss into his life story. So the way that I do this, which I've said several times, is to just state the facts. If you want to engage with acceptance as a skill, you just state the facts, right? It's raining. They can't speak. I lost my leg, right? It's very calming and actually very grounding. So I want to encourage you to try that. And you can do it right now. If you've already thought of something like I invited you to at the beginning, just do that now. The thing that you're resisting, just state it like a sentence and like a fact, like an object that you're just looking at. Just observe it. See what it's like. Okay. All right. So once you've done some of these things and you've engaged with acceptance, what do you do after that? What do you do after acceptance? And this is, in my opinion, the best part of all, because when you engage with acceptance of a hard life circumstance, all of a sudden you'll feel, at least I felt, an emotional opening where these doors opened and the world had so much opportunity again. So I was able to move on. I was able to I started taking actions that I wasn't taking before. I started to get therapists for my kids. I started to get devices for my kids. I started to listen to them more and pay attention to them more. And so you get to move on. You get to use all the energy you used at fighting against reality and redirect your life. And there's less suffering and there's more empowerment. It's really amazing. So here's what I would really love. Here's what I would really, really love is that if you had chosen or will choose, if you're listening to this after the fact, choose something in your life, a life circumstance that you feel resistance against. Go through the process that I taught you today. Use some of those tools. And when you reach this point where you feel the acceptance settle in, pay attention to what happens in your head and what happens in your body. Pay attention to how you now view your life. And I want you, if you're willing, to send me an email and share with me what this experience was like for you. Okay, because I'm collecting right now, and I have a list here, I'm collecting right now the benefits of acceptance, some of the outcomes. And I want to see what that's like. So if you're willing, I'd love to continue to have that conversation. And you can email me at ashleighjohnstoncoaching.com. And my name is Ashleigh. I'm going to write it down for you really quick. Okay. Ashleigh Johnston. And then you'll do Ashleigh Johnston coaching at Gmail. There you go. Okay. Email me and let's have a conversation about it. Okay. Thank you so much for coming here today. I want to remind you that this webinar is hosted by the Life Coach University. Phenomenal organization. There's so much more on here. Go and look and pay it forward to someone else out there that needs help, needs support. So, okay, hold on one second, everybody. We have a little question here from Anonymous. This has been so useful for me right now at this moment. I've really been rejecting my reality. Good. I'm so glad. I'm so glad. I realized this was, oh, there we go. Good, good, good. I'm really glad it was helpful for you. That's so good to know. Again, you can email me and we can continue any conversation that you would like to have. Going through the steps that you have offered here really helped me let go of the fight with reality. Yes, 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 yes. It's amazing how hard. We fight against reality, but especially when it hurts and we want it to not hurt. So I'm really glad that was amazing for you. Thank you so much for being here. Love it. Okay. All right, everybody, you're fantastic. Thank you for being here. And I will see you again in a month. But until then, check out all the other things the Life Coach University has to offer. There's so much here for you. All right, everybody. Mwah. Have a good day and a happy Thanksgiving if you're in America.